Hey there, it's Dr. Heyer from Holistic Health. Welcome to today's video. We're going to be wrapping up our series of What's the Difference, in particular on CBD. Now, if you watch our last videos, we talked about what the difference between CBD and THC is. So if you haven't seen those, definitely go back and check those out. But in today's video, I really want to talk about the quality of the CBD that's out there. In fact, if you ever watched Dr. Oz's TV show back in January, he had an episode where he and some other experts kind of reviewed the CBD that's out there, and they referred to it as kind of the wild, wild west because there's not a lot of regulation when it comes to CBD. So you may be asking yourself, well, is it FDA approved? Yes and no. There are some CBD formulas that are approved for two types of epilepsies or epileptic seizures. But for the most part, the rest of it isn't, quote, FDA approved. That doesn't mean there aren't health benefits from it, and we're learning more and more about it every day. It just means that the FDA hasn't necessarily approved it for certain things. We're finding in our office as a chiropractor, it's working very well for people who have chronic pain, chronic headaches, and just chronic inflammation in their life. But we'll touch on that a little bit more, and we talked about that on the last video. So if it's not FDA approved, then how do you know you're getting legit quality product? Well, that's where we have to look at the company and to see if the company that's manufacturing it is following the current good manufacturing practices that the FDA set up as a guideline. They kind of set up this guideline and say, hey, you need to measure up to this. And even if the FDA isn't checking each batch, they expect the companies to live up to those things. So it really comes down to each company and their own internal quality control. Now, of course, there are some that will meet those standards, there are some that will exceed those standards, and there are some that don't meet those standards at all. And there's a reason why. So I want to talk about value and pricing. The company that I work with, or the company you should look for, does independent lab testing. I use Charlotte's Web, and Charlotte's Web actually sends their product out to independent labs to see if the quality and the potency is there. What a lot of people don't know is that much of the raw material comes from China as a CBD paste, and it's very bioabsorbable. What does that mean? It means that if I put the paste into a container, it has a tendency to leach and absorb chemicals from the container. And if it isn't lined properly or packaged correctly, you could be absorbing heavy metals from the containers. You could be absorbing other chemicals that you don't want in the paste. And if the companies aren't living up to the good manufacturing practices, they may not be testing. And they're definitely, if not testing, they're not removing those chemicals from the product. So guess what? It ends up in a finished product on the shelf that you might be consuming or buying. And we don't want that. So we definitely want to work with a company that's sending their products out for independent lab testing, which Charlotte's Web does. They also provide tracking numbers for each lot. So let's say they send a lot out to company A or lab A. You can actually pull up online and see what the certificate of analysis or the COA is for that particular lot. And of course, if it doesn't measure up, then they dispose of it or process it however they have to. But they're always checking to make sure the quality is what they proclaim it to be. A lot of companies don't do that. I can tell you a quick story. Not too long ago, about a year and a half ago, I was approached by a multi-level marketing company who wanted me to sign up under them because they felt like they had a really good product. Well, I'll make a long story short. I asked at least, how many times? 3 or 4 times? Mm-hmm. I asked like 3 or 4 times from these people, can you please tell me who the independent labs that you're using are, and can you please show me the certificates of analysis? And every time they said, yeah, we'll get that to you. And let's just say after a period of 6 weeks, they never got that information to me. Whereas on the flip side, I asked Charlotte's Web to please send me the information for the independent labs and the COAs. I'm not exaggerating. Within 8 minutes, I got an email back from the people saying, here are the labs, and would you like us to call and introduce you so you can talk to the medical director? All within an email within 8 minutes. So if a company is not being transparent, acting like they're trying to hide something, you have to question what exactly is their internal quality control and are they following the good manufacturing practices. So you definitely want to look for a company with that. Now, it's still very confusing and still can be very misleading. I mean, there's a lot of ads out there saying, hey, our product has hemp oil, or hey, our product has seed oil. Seed oil does not have CBD in it. It comes from the flowers and the leaves. And the problem is that everything nowadays is CBD infused or hemp oil infused. You really don't know what you're buying. And it really comes down to quality control. Like I said, you might be seeing things from MLMs. Maybe your friend is in a pyramid or a network marketing thing, and they have CBD or hemp, and they want you to buy their soap or their oils. I mean, you can get this stuff at gas stations. I mean, I wouldn't eat hot dogs or sushi from gas stations. I'm certainly not going to buy my CBD from a gas station as well. And you know what? Everybody and their brother has a guy. They got a guy for this and that, and you never know where it's really coming from. So I know that some things are a little bit more expensive, but that's because there's quality control procedures in place and it costs money. And I'm at the point that I don't want to buy cheap. I don't want to necessarily buy just because something is less expensive. I want to make sure, especially when it comes to a product like this, I want to make sure there's a value, and that value comes from the quality and the quality control that the companies have in place. So, thank you for watching this series of what's the difference between CBD and THC. I hope I've helped you understand the difference between value and price. And we do have Charlotte's Web products available here at the office, so feel free to message us or give us a call. We'll be happy to help.